Hello, welcome to Christmas. I'm Jack Taylor, and I'm here to help you imagine Christmas. This is part 5. And today we're going to imagine Tamar. Do you always understand the way God works in the Christmas story? I know scripture says that his ways and his thoughts are higher than ours, but sometimes I get confused in the details of how things work out. You ever had that happen to you? Right now, you may be busy in the details of lights and trees and food and generosity, but maybe all the plans you had for this time of year aren't working out the way that you had hoped. And perhaps you have a very little control over that. That's kind of the way it's been through the whole Christmas story. Now, some of you have noticed that we've only been mentioning men so far. No wonder things are messed up in the family, you say. All that deception, favoritism, dysfunction, and misplaced love. But not so fast. The Gospel of Matthew includes the names of 5 women in the family Christmas line. If I was writing this genealogy, I might have put down Sarah, the wife of Abraham. After all, she gave birth at 90 years of age. She's a hero. She guarded her son after her husband tried to kill him. But she's part of the story and yet not on the list. Maybe because she laughed at the thought of God completing his promise through her at that age. Then there's Rebecca, the wife of Isaac. Now, she's had twins after 20 years of childlessness. She's part of the story, but she's not on the list. Perhaps because she helped her youngest son in an act of deception against her husband. Then there's Rachel and Leah, 2 sisters married to Jacob who were responsible for his 12 sons and 1 daughter. But they're part of the story, but they're not on the list. Perhaps because of their jealousy, their idolatry, their bickering. Not until we get to Judah's daughter-in-law, Tamar, do we see a woman mentioned on the list. I'm not sure if her act is something we want our daughters imitating. But in case you didn't remember that Tamar is part of the Christmas story, just say her name out loud. Tamar, 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 Tamar. Yeah, her name is etched in the Christmas book of life, even if you didn't remember her. I hope your name is there as well this Christmas. Tamar's first husband is so evil that God puts him to death. Now, the custom of the day is that the next oldest brother sleeps with the widow and produces a child who will inherit the first brother's fortune. The second brother doesn't follow through, and so God puts him to death. I mean, what is going on? Why is God so fixated on doing the right thing in the right way? Well, Tamar is sent back to her own father by Judah until his youngest son can grow up to do his duty. Now, in reality, Judah doesn't want his son near this woman. I mean, would you? Judah's own wife finally dies, and after his grief, he takes a friend to go check on his sheep. And someone tells Tamar. Now, she's been patiently waiting. The youngest son is old enough to do his duty, but Judah is not following through on his promises. So Tamar takes off her mourning garments, dresses herself, and disguises herself with a face covering. She sits on the way where Judah is going to pass. Now, Judah thinks she's a shrine prostitute, and he negotiates a price to sleep with her. A goat. No kidding. He doesn't have the goat, so he gives her his staff, his personal seal, and a cord as a pledge. Now, those were the identity documents of the day. Well, she becomes pregnant. She returns home, she puts on her widow's clothes again, and Judah sends the goat. Now, she's nowhere, and people there say, well, there's no shrine prostitute here. Well, he doesn't want to become the laughingstock of the community, so he hopes that this little indiscretion is just going to evaporate. By now, you know that the whole Christmas story isn't just something cute and cuddly designed to entertain children. It's a very adult story with very real adults doing adult things. And none of our shenanigans get whitewashed over in God's eyes if it wasn't for the Christmas story. Well, 3 months later, you know it. The evidence is in. Someone informs Judah, and he wants Tamar burned. Just the kind of father-in-law you want in your family tree, right? Tamar produces the staff, the seal, the cord, and Judah says this, "Wow, she is more righteous than I, since I wouldn't give her to my son." Does that blow your mind? She is more righteous than I? God has already taken the life of two men who refused to do things the way God designed. She practices deception, which we've been questioning up until now, and she's commended for it. There are going to be twists and turns in the Christmas story, just like there are twists and turns in your life story. Somehow, God knows the end from the beginning, and He's got all the details sorted out in between, even our messes. To Tamar, twin boys are born. And they're part of the Christmas story. You know, when everyone around you is doing the wrong thing, you can trust God to help you do the right thing. The Christmas story isn't about perfect people putting up pretty scenes and neat little packaged family photos. It's about someone who came to walk through our mess with us, to even clean up that mess. So let's keep imagining Christmas together as God brings us face to face with real men and real women. People who may be a little too much like us to leave us comfortable. God bless you as you embrace Him in all your reality. Let's imagine Christmas together tomorrow.